Hey, hi, hello, everyone. I am sure, the 4 people that are waiting. How is everybody? Probably going to give at least I don't know how long it takes to go live. I think it takes a couple minutes for it to register. But in case there is like exactly one person in my audience who somehow is not aware of who you are, if you want to give a quick introduction of yourself.
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name is Sarah, or Aphrodite Speech, which is my channel. My channel name means, which I didn't think any foresight of when I first did it. I really didn't. Aphrodite and Peaches are both of my cats, so that's how I kind of crunched the name together. And yeah, I decided to make videos on YouTube one day, and here I am.
Aren't we all? I love your cats. I love seeing them like in the background. It's like an Easter egg. Like, whenever I see them, like, yes, there's Aphrodite, there's Peach. They're really cute. You have very cute cats.
Thank you. They love to photobomb, but I don't. They rule the house, so they're kind of do whatever they want.
Yes, I mean your cats seem nice, which is good, because then you have like a benevolent overlord. My parents have one cat, and that cat's a hellion. It is not a kind beast. And so like having that cat basically be like the king of our jungle at home, it's like awful. He'll just strut around everywhere. He'll scratch the crap out of the back of your legs. Like, no, it's taken over my parents' dining room area. Like, everyone else get out. All of these chairs, all 6 chairs are my chairs.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely play nice in front of the camera. Behind the camera, Aphrodite is definitely a really big brat. And Peaches he really likes to go everywhere. His favorite thing to do is he has these toy mice, and he dunks them in water and then drops them on you when you're sleeping. So he's quite the trickster.
Oh, it's cute. See, that's the thing. It's like when you have like very naughty children. It's very entertaining to watch from an outside point of view, and then when you actually have to like be the parent and like take care of the kids, it becomes really stressful, because you're just like, this is what I live with this all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. Are they do? And you said recently in one of your videos that you moved. Are they doing okay with like being in a new space?
Yeah, no, we did. I did end up moving. They do great. I know Aphrodite. I'm not sure if it shows in videos, but she actually like doesn't have any eyes. Like, I adopted her. She's a special needs cat. Yeah, but people like think that it's hard for her to adapt to different places, but she picks it up really quickly. She's super, super smart.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much, Shane. And it's really good that you are here. Yay.
Yeah, your live was great. I watched all of it. You're fantastic.
I'm like 4 or 5 hours behind on lives, because I have seen like nothing. And like kind of like if you're being haunted in real life, like Chantel's 2.5-hour live is like looming in the back of my brain, giving me anxiety, because I'm like, you have to watch it.
Yeah, I got to the part where she was like, I got Lush for Christmas. And I was like, okay, I'll pause this and come back to it later.
I have 4 or 5 bins of like clean laundry sitting here. So I'm planning that I'm going to like put her live on double speed. And then maybe by the time I'm done my laundry, that will also be over. It kind of sounds like I'm punishing myself. Like, you have to do it. I want like the Cliff Notes version of it. I want to know the information without having to watch all of it. Like,
I mean, you can read the transcripts. You know that YouTube does like transcript on their videos.
Oh wait, no, I did not know this.
Yeah, it's really great. Like, if you're on your desktop, I forget how I do it, but you can just like hit transcript and it like types it all out for you.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna investigate this, because I feel like that will make me feel better. I feel like that'll make it a little bit easier for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I completely cut you off about the cats, but yeah, I did not know that she was blind. Well, it's like a little bit hard to see in the video sometimes, because they're like always sort of moving around. But I've seen some blind cats. They generally tend to be a lot less graceful than your kitty tends to be. So
oh no,
awesome.
I mean, she's fine. She like rock and rolls. She's sitting in her bed. I mean, she definitely likes to sleep more than my other cats, but she's totally fine.
Okay. Yeah, it's adorable. I really want a cat, or like 6, but I love cats. Their general demeanor and their dislike of like interaction with other people really appeals to me. But like, partner is like allergic, and so he's like, dog or nothing. And I'm not willing to get a dog. They're entirely too high maintenance for me.
You should get the hairless cats. I mean, like they like feel like peach fuzz. They're really fantastic.
Really? I've never
Yeah.
seen, the only kind of information I know about the hairless cats is basically what I've learned from friends. And it like mildly traumatized me. I'm just like, I don't want something that looks like a raw chicken. And so like I've just been kind of like, what if they're all just mean and like that, even though the internet tells me otherwise?
They're cute. They're like a big naked mole rat.
I want like, we have some cat cafes around here. I want one that has a completely naked cat so that I can go and like play with it. And then I feel like it'll help me just acclimatize myself to the idea of a furless cat, and then I'll be okay.
That's super fair.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say I love your hair. Was the inspiration for the silver like rogue from the X-Men?
So it wasn't, and also thank you, Little Ing, about my bangs. They just happened to come out this way today, so I feel happy that someone said they were good.
Oh, they look really cute. Your hair looks lovely.
Thanks. No, yeah, I just like decided to do it one day. I don't know. I just like change my hair all the time, like I have for a really long time. I'm always dyeing it, and then I did this like the silver white streak, and then I ended up cutting it, and then the dye like didn't hold into it, so now it just is kind of it's the side. It's kind of like reappeared, which is totally fine. Like whatever. It's a look.
It's a cute. You know what? I think all you have to do is, no, I meant it to look like this. You know what I mean? Like, just go with it and be like, yeah, I totally wanted my hair to look like this. And I'm so glad it turned out exactly how I anticipated. And like, no one will know.
Yeah, a happy accident.
Yeah, exactly, right? I've been wanting to kind of like do something with my hair, but I am a giant coward. I don't know why, but I'm so scared that I'm going to like do something to it. I'll dye it and all of it will fall out and then I'll just be bald. And I've worn a wig exactly once in my life and it was so itchy that I'm like scared. I'm like, if I have to wear, my head's not symmetrical. I can't live without a wig on because then people will know my head's lumpy. I don't know why. It's like it's like an odd worry that I have, like that and like just like roaming black holes. It's like a constant mild fear that I live with, that this is something I might have to face, even though logically, of course not.
It's like quicksand when you're younger, where everyone tells you to worry about quicksand, but now I've never come across it once in my life.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I swear as a kid, I thought quicksand would be so much of a bigger problem than it actually turned out to be as an adult. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I don't know why it was such like a big predominating fear of like my childhood self. And I feel like it's the same, like you just mentioned this. I've had like 2 other people like IRL tell me the same thing. They're like, oh yeah, I really worried that quicksand would play a bigger part in my life as an adult. Mm-hmm. Like, were we all traumatized in the exact same way? Like,
yeah, I think it was like the Magic Tree House that taught me about quicksand. I don't know. It was like a book as a kid.
Okay, maybe. I think there was also a Simpsons episode where they talked about it. I kind of feel like maybe that's where I internalized it from, but
quicksand is in all forms of the media except for real life.
Yes, this is very true. Quicksand hasn't made an appearance in my life, and I'm sad about it now.
I'm happy that it hasn't. I can keep away from me.
Well, see, on the one hand, I'm like, oh yeah, I will definitely be scared. But on the other hand, I can't help but feel like kind of like a whirlpool in like a big body of water. I just want to see it with my own 2 eyes. You know, I kind of want to know, like, what is it like? Will it really eat me?
I'll look from far away. I don't want to know. I'm too accident prone to get anywhere near whirlpools or quicksand.
That's fair. That is extremely fair. I get you on the, I mean, like you can't see my arms really in that much detail, but I'm continuously covered in like nicks and bruises and cuts because I fall all of the time. So
oh yeah, I did a really embarrassing one today. I'm like showing off how embarrassing I am. So I was like reaching down and I hit my head on a snow shovel. So like I have this like really embarrassing cut. Oh no! But it's good because I have bangs, so now nobody can see how embarrassing I am.
All right. If it makes you feel any better, literally, I opened up a drawer, I dropped something in my kitchen, I reached down to get it, and I boinked myself in the head on my own drawer, like betrayed by my own actions. And I'm wearing a lot of foundation, so you can't see it, but there's like a big red lump, like right here where I hit my head. I feel you. That's all I mean to say. Like I really sympathize because I am the same way. I'm very accident prone.
No, definitely.
Yeah. So how have you been enjoying your time making videos? So, like, be honest. Everyone says this, but I literally believe no one because I hate it so much. Do you actually enjoy editing? Is that a thing
Well,
that you really enjoy as a creator?
okay, so I think my perspective on specifically editing is probably a bit skewed. I personally do like editing, but I have like gone to school for like digital media production. So
Okay.
I like feel really in my element when I'm doing things like that. So I do really like it. But in the realm of videos, I mean, of course, like I love making videos. If I didn't like making them, I wouldn't. I do think that I do have like ups and downs, which I feel like anybody who has a channel probably can relate to. Like there will be times where I'm, like really into it. And then there's times where like I feel a little bit of burnout, which I feel like is pretty natural.
Yeah.
Overall, like I always really, really enjoy it, but I do find things going through waves where I want to talk about one thing more, and then I'll want to revisit something else in a different way. And I think over the time of having a YouTube channel, I've kind of come to terms with myself of being like, if I want to do it, and like that's fine. And if I don't want to do it that day, like that's also fine. And kind of just like being confident where if I want to put something out, I'm going to put it out and it's okay because in the end, it's kind of for me.
Yeah. Okay. So I've seen that. I think visually I've seen that on your channel because you started with a lot more, like involvement with like Haydur Nation and just like videos about Chantal and Amber. And then I've seen sort of like your videos transitioning into like different topics. I think the one that I'm thinking of is like the dolls kill video that you did, which was very well done. I really enjoyed
Thank
that.
you. Yeah.
So that one, and then the other one that I personally really liked was your plea to Netflix to not like fuck up Avatar.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you saw the news, but the showrunners for the original, like I live in fear of that show coming out and them have just totally having like wrecked it. I'm so scared. I'm so scared.
I think it might be another case of it. I mean, who's to say? Like, fingers crossed, but
yeah. That's exactly it. Like on the one hand, Netflix has done a pretty decent job at like reimagining and adapting things. Like the Marvel TV shows that they did were fantastic. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, some things I often worry that people are like, oh, I want to make it more realistic. But to make it more realistic, they're like, just make it grungy. And like, I don't know how you're going to do a super upbeat, optimistic Aang as like, I don't know, like edgy. Like,
no, that's fair. It's like Netflix has put out like 2 different adaptations. I'm pretty sure they did The Witcher, I think. So you have like The Witcher and then you have like Death Note. So it's really like you get either one end of the spectrum.
Yeah. And I think, but that's a difference between the two, right? Like The Witcher I watched both of them.
Death Note too.
Yes, one definitely more against my will. But when I watched the Witcher series, I was like, oh, this is so well done. They've really adapted it well. But it was already like a grittier, like inherently grittier material. And then like Death Note has always been like a little bit more fantasy, right? And that's why I think it did so well as like an anime. And it's kind of like, I don't know if you've seen Attack on Titan at all. They did like that Attack on Titan movie, which I also did not like. And I'm just like, some stuff just doesn't work in real life. It needs to be a cartoon. Otherwise, it's horrifying.
Yeah, if you're wanting a really big throw up, you should throw up or throw up. I don't know, whichever one. But you should watch the Full Metal Alchemist live action. It's really hilarious. Or don't.
I will give it a watch. I don't guarantee that I will like it. Oh, I think I saw Michael in the chat. Hey, Michael.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Sorry, I'm shy.
It's all good. I mean, I've told you about my ongoing struggles with like just generally being an anxious human being. So I'm like, I think everyone here understands. They've watched me. If it's just my audience here, they've watched me for long enough to know that I'm an awkward individual, regardless. But yeah, so I really like the shift in content that you've had. I've really been enjoying your take on like a lot of different sort of topics. You did the NXIVM one as well, right? Or you covered the
crazy.
Yeah, that looks like an insane topic. I really like. What was the research like when you were like looking into this topic? I can only imagine it was super. Was it like, was there any points where you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that? Like, that's awful.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, okay, so this is like really, I don't know. I'm like a big podcast person and I like commute an hour to work. So I drive 2 hours a day. And then for the 8 hours I'm at work, I listen to podcasts straight. So I listen to like 10 hours a day. I don't know why I do that, but I just listen to it and I consume all of it all the time. And just there was a podcast I was listening to by Parcast, which was cults, and they did a 4-episode series about NXIVM, and I was like, this is crazy. And then a few months later, they were like, Keith Raniere was arrested, and I was like, I can't believe this just happened. So I had like a baseline from there. And then after that, I really just like go through online and read a whole bunch of things. Like I read a lot for like for that type of video. Or if I'm going like on YouTube, I like to look up, see what's there, see what's kind of happening. For that one, they had like a few news things. And then I kind of, depending on what it's like, try and put it together. Although the NXIVM one is like so large and convoluted and has so many different things. Yeah. And in the end is just like so messed up. Like it was, yeah, like there was a point where I got to the end and I was just like, I can't believe it. And then like the icing on the cake was that like the person who was in, like one of the people involved was like Seagram's, like the alcoholic drink. And I was like, that's crazy. They're like the Seagram's heiress. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't believe we're talking about a Seagram's heiress. Like I wish I had that title, but also don't want to be her.
I think the first time it really came into like my kind of, I guess, like field of vision in a very abstract kind of way was I was a huge like Smallville fan like back in the day. And so having God, now I don't remember like like the actress's name anymore, but I remember when I saw it and it was like, wait, I think I saw it when I was standing in line at like grocery store and I saw just sort of like a newspaper or something. And I was like, this has to be one of those like weird tabloid things, right? Where they're like, Obama is a reptile and there's Pizzagate and like just like ridiculous things, right? Like it can't possibly be a real thing. And then I looked into it and I'm like, what in God's name is happening?
Yeah, it was really, she was up there. I mean, but there's totally like larger conversation regarding the like power dynamics, which is all super fair. And I'm interested to see how everything's going to like play out, but yeah, definitely a whole thing.
I really want to know like how the whole case, I guess, I kind of want to say the words like shakes out, but I also I don't want to make it sound like glib, like this is genuinely horrifying, but also it's like fascinating in a very disturbed kind of way. I've never, I guess maybe I'm not the target demographic, but I've never quite understood the fascination with cult, like how people fall into that orbit. If you've never seen it, I really recommend it. Osho is another one that's on. No, it's called Wild Wild Country.
It's Wild Wild Country about the Rajneesh prom.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is, like, I'm Southeast Asian. There's like huge, big name actors who were like part of that compound. Where I look back and I'm like, wait, they mentioned this person. Wait, I think there was a movie actor who went to live with him too. And I Googled it, and there was really big movie personalities from India who'd actually like followed this dude all the way to Oregon. And just watching how everything sort of turned out, I don't know, not in like a mean kind of way. It's just I've never understood how that happened. So I think that and like Leah Rainey's
Scientology.
Yeah.
Sorry, I watched too many things.
No, yeah, I'm the same way. I don't tend to podcast as much as I used to because YOLO, work from home, right? But when I did, I would do the same thing. I would like watch and I would read so much, and I would listen to so many podcasts like that. Plus, Night Vale always puts me in like a weird kind of headspace where I'm just like, all conspiracy theories are true.
Yeah, I mean, if I have like listened to a bunch of them, but the biggest one I recommend now, if anyone listens to podcasts, You're Wrong About is the best podcast I've literally ever listened to. I love You're Wrong About. I think it's so fantastic. It's like revisiting things in the past and like kind of going through the story and like redefining it. And it's so fantastic. But yeah, that's my favorite. And
I'll check it out.
It's really, really good. And also big better for me, Full Metal Alchemist, it's really a sight to behold. If you think it shouldn't be a live action, you're probably right. And that's all the live action is.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so bad at like reading comments while I actually do things. But yeah, I don't know. I want to watch it if only because sometimes things can be surprisingly good. Like the design for Ryuk in the Netflix version of Death Note was really good, but then everything about it was like unequivocally garbage. Like it was a dumpster fire of a just adaptation. And so I'm like both really curious and really like apprehensive because like Full Metal Alchemist is literally one of my favorite things to have ever been created.
Yeah, I think those are both really fair emotions to go into that live action with.
I think a partner told me when I got my like wisdom teeth removed, on like we had like a 20-minute drive back home, and he's like the entire time you just cried in the car because he like he always dies in every single adaptation. He always is killed by envy, and like I can't remember characters. I'm so bad with names. I'm sorry, but like he dies in every single version of it. And I remember just sitting there and I was like crying, sobbing in the car. I was like, he always dies. There's this video of me just like with my mouth and my face swollen to like out here.
Mm-hmm. I'm jealous. I mean, all I did was just throw up in the car.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I know you recently mentioned you had your teeth out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean,
No.
Your swelling looks better if that makes you feel better.
No, it wasn't that bad. I remembered everything. And then, yeah, it was just like, because the ride home was long. It was 40 minutes. So,
oh, geez.
Yeah.
That's not great. I think I lived on like fruit juice for like a good 3 days. And I'm like super allergic to like codeine and codeine derivatives. So all they gave me was like, here, have some Tylenol. Thanks. It did very little for the pain, but you know, I didn't have to go to work, so that was something. All right, hardcore questions from the list that I sent you.
Sure.
So how did you find our girls? I'm really curious. I know like everyone has a little bit of a different take on how they got to where they got to, and like what kind of pushed you then into making videos rather than just being like an observer.
Okay, totally. I think I'll like do the natural, like the progression, or So so I initially saw Amberlyn Reed's channel when I was watching Peter Mon. I was really into Peter Mon, and I just phased out of watching. Like, you know, I go through waves with creators, and
same.
He mentioned her once, and that's kind of how I heard her name. And then it kind of went away for a little bit, and then I was just naturally like looking for like inspiration type of thing. Like I was trying to find somebody who I could watch and who would kind of just like, I don't know, like inspire me in a way. Something that I don't really like talk about largely like on my channel is like I've had really struggles with like eating and like visions with eating in the past. And that's kind of like I was in a really like hard place with that. And I was like, inspiration, let's go for it. Yeah. And then I stumbled across her channel and then I kind of started watching. And I know you also mentioned on your list, which I think will play into it, is that I like didn't really understand what was happening at first. Like I didn't understand kind of what was happening just in general with everybody. And then, I was just kind of there, wasn't really understanding. And then I started watching probably around when like Becky was first kind of introduced to the scene, kind of to say. And then I just started to know Becky, and then I was around for a bit. And I believe the time where I was really like, like thinking really hard about it was around Optivia. And then there was something with like her dietitian where like her dietitian ghosted her. And I was like, this is a really interesting events that are happening here. And that kind of really got me starting to think a bit more critically. And the catalyst that had me make my first video, it was more so not of a change of catalyst in my personal perception, because I feel like my perception was a bit set by the time I got to that point. It was more so of like a personal life change where I just got out of college. I had more time in my hands. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And I was like, oh, whatever. I like making videos. I'll make a video, kind of not really thinking anybody was going to watch it first.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I actually had like I think a similar, I'd mentioned it before in one of my other videos. So I had like a similar kind of progression in terms of like how I kind of started watching them and the kind of rabbit hole that I fell down. I think it's recently, I'm sure you've also noticed, there's been a lot of like criticism towards the Haydur Nation, as it were. People talking about just the fact that, you know, how much criticism Amber and Chantal get. And I think that temptation to just take a really quick look. Yeah, people are bullying them for no reason is like really there. And I think it kind of started like that with me too, where I started watching them. And like you were saying, you mentioned you started with Peter Mon. For me, I think I want to say it was Michelle McDaniels, but I have like a really, really shit memory. So I could very much be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it was Michelle McDaniels. I was looking for inspiration myself, like with just trying to lose weight and just be a little bit healthier. And I've never had like eating issues, but I've had a lot of issues with just body dysmorphia and like eating healthier, being better, and just trying to keep myself motivated in that regard. So I was looking for like trainers, people I liked. And when I came across Amber, my first thought was, this is a person here who obviously has issues, but if she can do it, then I can do it, And that's always what I look for in people is like, I want you to serve as like a guiding light to me. And so that's what I was hoping for. And I took a quick look and I was like, people are just mean to this girl for no reason. And then I got kind of sucked into it. I'm pretty sure I started with like Michael B. Patton.
Oh, I don't think. Can I hear you now? I'm sorry. I can't tell if it's like me. Yeah, I can't hear you. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure if I still have sound. But not. Sorry. Okay, well, she'll be back. Okay, let's look at the chat in the meantime. Big Better for Me. I found the girls near the end of the Destiny era. I had seen ALR briefly a year or two before, but didn't know anything about it. The one day ALR was in my suggested videos, which is completely random. I had a very similar experience as well. No, I'm sorry. Is it something with your headphones, possibly? Yeah, but what was all this business about Scientology up here? Guess I can meander back up to that. Someone took a photo of a Scientology building. You're pretty bold. I would never do that. I'm terrified of them. Oh, there's more. Oh, yeah. Jordan, I don't understand how Scientologists stick with it when they get to the alien part. Leah Remini actually talks about it, and it's really interesting about how she got to that point where she realized everything that was going on. Yeah, it was really interesting, but she was like, by that point, she was like so deep into it that it kind of just naturally progressed. Started with DC and found all of these awesome channels. Well, thank you, Allie. And yeah, I feel like once you kind of start into the, at one point, it kind of like goes from there.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, you're back.
Oh, thank God. I just had to close out of the whole thing and then come back. I'm so sorry about that.
No, don't worry about it.
Yeah, sorry. I completely forgot what I was saying and where we were before. Anyway. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on. It never happened. There were no technical difficulties, and I'm very proficient at this. So, do you remember who like the first person you started watching in the quote unquote Hater Nation was?
Yeah, definitely. The first person I started watching, which I feel like is the same for a lot of people, was Michael B. Petty. So like hilarious.
Yes.
Like as soon as I watched one of his like first videos or his first streams, I was like completely sucked in. I was like, this man is comedy gold. I was like, I don't know how I was like, genius.
Yeah.
And then from there, I kind of like started going on. I definitely probably followed Michael B. Petty and then Life of a Free Spirit Callie for probably the longest.
Yes.
I found Callie really soon. I absolutely love her channel. I like adore her. I like try and like I support her on like a bunch of different platforms. Like I think she's so great. And then it really just kind of went from there. I don't know, I listen to content when I work, either whatever it be. So I watch like a lot of people. I love finding new people, and yeah, it kind of just really like blew into like these major proportions, but in a really happy sense. Like I was really happy to find all of the people who, I don't know, I was like, yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I feel that. Like it was so funny because like when I first got into the community, there was like no one who wanted to talk about it with me in real life. And so finding an entire community of people who were like talking about it and discussing it and be like, yeah, that is messed up that you did this. I'm like, thank you. Thank you for being here for me when no one in my real life wants to talk to me anymore. I appreciate it.
I would like leave my room and I would like just be like disheveled in pajamas and I'd be like, listen to this. And my like housemate at the time would be like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. And I'm like, for me to explain this one event, I'm going to have to tell you 5 other things.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I felt too. I'm like, you don't know, this comes with lore. There's lore. You need to understand all of it before you get to this point where you're just like upset because someone is eating something or a chicken wing or something like that. Like, I feel like I think I found you through Irate Alex's channel. I think they did him and Omegon, I want to say, had done like an entire like stream. Honestly, a lot of the context is now lost because my brain does not work. But I think I was watching this and you had a segment in there where you were like helping, I think, Alex put together a timeline. And I was like, oh, I like her. She's like got such a very calm energy. You had such a calm energy then. And I was like, I'm going to go look her up. And I did. And I'm so glad. I think I've watched pretty much everything that you've ever put out, I want to say.
Thanks.
Yeah. That's basically what my channel is. It was like a way to talk to and interact with creators that I'd like followed from afar. I'm like, hey, I like your stuff. I want to be you when I grow up. Thank you.
It's so wild. Like, it's just like always wild to me to like hear people be like, I watch your videos. And it's like, just, I don't know. Cause it's like, I don't see myself that way. And it's like interesting that other people do, which I mean, like makes sense. Like I put myself on the internet, like that era. But I remember like one time somebody recognized me like in person. And like, it was in like a museum and somebody was like, do you make videos on YouTube? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. I was like, what do I say? I'm like, do I lie? And I'm like, I can't lie. Then it's like, it was like, yes.
I think I had like a similar moment when I think I'd opened up Twitter and like Michael had like followed me on Twitter and I was just like, what is happening right now? Right. It was so inconceivable to me that like, oh, this person knows I watched you for a year on YouTube. How do you know I exist, sir? Like it was such an incomprehensible moment to me. I have thankfully not had anyone come up to me because I'm almost certain if they came up to me and they're like, hey, I like your videos. And I like opened my mouth, I would say something so inconceivably stupid. It'd just be like, oh, I can never watch her again. That girl's an idiot. Like, yeah,
I said something where I was like, yeah, and then like kind of walked away. And then like I did like a whole lap around and I came back and I said that and then I lost my phone and the person who was there was like an attendant at the museum. So she picked up my phone because I just dropped it and walked away by accident. And I came back and I was like, that's mine. And I was like, I'm so sorry I'm like this. I'm like, I promise. Like, I just get nervous.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I just be like, I wouldn't know what to say or what to do. I just be like, oh, yeah. And then I just go completely mute. I'm almost certain that's going to be my reaction if it ever happens to me. And they're probably never going to want to like watch me again because they're like, oh, she only sounds intelligent when you're watching her on YouTube. In real life, she's an idiot. Which honestly, that's a fair thing to think. I am genuinely an idiot.
I mean, I scrape my head on a snow shovel, so I think you're perfectly fine.
We're in good company, you know? All right. where did you kind of like go down? How did you get to the point where you're like, I want to talk about this like on YouTube where other people will also criticize me? Like, what was do you have like a moment where you watched a thing and you're like, oh, I have a thing to say and I want people to hear it? Like, what was your moment that pushed you into going from just content consumer to content creator?
No, definitely. I think it was like I said, like more of a personal catalyst change, because I was talking about it with people in my immediate life, and nobody, like some people knew, like people like ended up, it was like when you talk about a friend of a friend and they're like,
Yeah, yeah.
know that amount. But it was really when I like was done with college. I was home at my parents for a little bit before I was transitioning into like the next phase of my life, and I really had like a lot of time on my hands. So I was like, why not? And I didn't really think it was going to like come to anything. Although I do remember that when I first started making videos, it was during the 100 days of uploading, the infamous 100 days of uploading. And it was right around the time when I believe Amber put out this really, really long like Snapchat something, but it was not the one to be confused with like the
original
yeah.
Snapchat rant, as it were.
Yeah, it was like one of the ones a really long time ago, but I
Yeah.
bet there's like a bunch of them. But yeah, that was about the time when I started, and it kind of like took me a bit to figure out what exactly I wanted to do, which I feel like is totally fair and totally normal. Like I just personally am not enough on my toes to feel like I could do a reaction in a really good way. So I kind of just like did my kind of own thing, which I really, really like. Like I don't know, like I like like taking notes, or like kind of putting things together, like making like a fun joke of it, where not joke, but like in the sense where it's like you're watching a thing, but it's like you're turning it 180 degrees and then talking about it again.
Yeah, just lighten it up a little bit and presenting it in a different light.
Yeah, which is what I kind of liked. So yeah, it took me a little bit to find out what I wanted to do, which I feel like is totally like normal to kind of find your way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. If you've seen my videos at all, like from when I first started to like now, I feel like my delivery is different. My just everything. I think everyone, once they start, they're like, oh, I don't think I'm communicating what I want to communicate in the way that I was doing it. Like it might work in like IRL, but not necessarily over camera, you know? So I think that's really normal. And yeah, I really like the different spin that you had on it. While I really like the reactions that I think a lot of people did, I appreciated the kind of timeline that you brought to a lot of your videos, mostly because, especially when it comes to Chantel, she's like tweets. She uploads things on her community tab and then she deletes them so soon after. And I don't have my phone with me 9 times out of 10. So like I don't get screenshots. I don't remember anything. And then I can't even remember my own personal timeline. So I really appreciate being able to look at your videos and being like, oh, okay, so that's what happened in a cohesive manner where it makes sense in my head now. You know?
Yeah, it's mostly just like on my camera roll, I'll have like 30 photos of just like screenshots and I'm like going through, and everyone's like, "Are you taking a photo of me?" I'm like, no, don't worry about it. Like something else.
Have you had like experiences where you're trying to get something and it's gone so fast, you're like, I just missed it?
I mean, there's been instances where things have been gone, but I think there's like so many people who are really, really good on catching things. Yeah. And then like I'll go onto Twitter and I'll find it and I'll be like, oh, great. And then I'll just like try and like put where I found it, because I think if I was just relying on my own skills, it would be incredibly difficult. That's where there's people who are like, there's people who are really like on top of things and like bless their hearts, because I've definitely missed things.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a direct shout out to Miss Future Becky Williams on Twitter, because 9 times out of 10, if I miss something, I'm like, I'm gonna go check if she's talked about it, and like I'm sure she has all of the tea, which I really appreciate.
100%. The champ, MVP.
You're right, exactly. So how did you feel about the burgeoning like anti-movement when it first started happening, right? Because you found this community, you started talking about it, you were invested in the community, and then I think the anti community is relatively new, and I'm curious to see I have my own opinions on them. Some of them are angry, most of them are just like, why, dude? So I'm always curious to see what other people have to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't really know a whole lot about everything that's happening. Yeah, I have heard like a few names here and there, but I really like don't know a whole lot about the people in the like in that community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think my like thoughts about it are kind of uneducated in a way. Like I
Okay.
feel like yeah, I'm kind of removed about it. Like I know that like I think like it's part of the overall conversation about like the reaction, and then I guess it's kind of a commentary on the reaction, which I feel like is in my eyes fine, but I also
Mm-hmm.
don't think I know a whole lot to go
Yeah.
into it that really deeply, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. I think that that is a very mature attitude to have towards something, and I think it's very like it's a sign of being a grown person to be to just be able to say, "Hey, I don't know enough about this topic to have a firm opinion either way." I think that's fine. I think that's great. I've had, I don't know if you've had this experience at all. I've had a couple people who will like semi regularly comment on my channel, and it's always like very upset stuff. And sometimes I feel like purposefully misunderstanding what I'm trying to say, you know? But I wonder if you've ever experienced that on your channel, if there's been a couple people who are just like, oh, they're just like going after you for no reason that you can deserve. I don't, like I've said before, I'll make a ton of mistakes. I've made mistakes before, I'll make them again. And I have no problem admitting to it when I've done something wrong. But I mean, if you're not going to watch my video and just come on here and be like, why don't you just admit you're a fatty? I'm like, dude, if you watch my video, you'd know I already have. Have you ever had an experience like that where you've had someone come on your channel and just for what you thought was like unwarranted?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like people have I mean there's like two groups of things where like people have said something and I'd be like, yeah, that's like really I'm like, that's really fair. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't think of it that way. And I'm like, that's really interesting. I'm like, yeah, you're like, I should consider that in the future. You're totally right. And even if it's something that like maybe I would have I'm like it shocked me to hear, but I'm like
Mm-hmm.
that's so like that's really fair and was good for me to hear. And then there's like other comments where it's just like not really constructive at all. Like I've totally had people like I guess make fun of my appearance or like make fun of my teeth, which was always new to me, or anything like that. But also I don't really I'm just like somebody where if someone's gonna like make fun of my appearance or anything like that, I kind of don't really care. Like you can
Yeah.
say what you want and I'm sound with my own self that I don't really mind what you're going to say about me. So I guess if it's the category of falling into, or it's like, oh, you're going to say I have dinosaur teeth, LOL, that's hilarious. That's fine.
It was like, thank you. Coming at you this Halloween will be Sarah dressed in a dinosaur outfit.
Yeah, I
You
thought that
know, like
I got that one once and I just like stood there and I was like, I've never gotten that one before. And then I like screenshotted it and like sent it to everyone I knew. And I'm like, isn't this kind of funny? And everyone like, we got like a good joke of it. But yeah, I think if it falls into that category,
yeah.
I'm kind of like the person who doesn't really care about that. But I've also definitely like learned really valuable things from comments that I've said that like I may have been shocked to hear, but I've been like, that's a really fair point, and I think
Yes.
that's really valid.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a couple people tell like there's an expression that I use in a video, and I don't like to delete stuff because I don't want people to think that I'm trying to like hide a mistake that I've made. It's there. It's on the internet. People are going to remember it. I might as well leave it up so people can see it and I can apologize and be better in the future, you know? But I'd had a video that I'd use an expression and someone had pointed out to me that, hey, this has like super racist connotations, right? Like I had not thought of it that way. I was referring to playing cards. That's always the association that had been made in my head. And so I had just assumed that that's what they were talking about. And I Googled it and it has a super racist history. And so it was like, oh, I didn't like knowing that. I didn't like knowing that I'd unintentionally, doesn't matter, but I'd unintentionally like hurt people's feelings and that I'd used such a upsetting turn of phrase. But now having learned that, I feel better because I'm like, oh, good. Now I'm not going to continue to use this and potentially hurt people. So I've
Mhm.
always appreciated and I've had like really, really useful comments. Like I had someone in my comment section tell me that like, you know, Amber has talked a lot about in the past about her like egg allergy. And they were talking about how she might just be allergic to egg whites and not necessarily egg yolk. And that's why, you know, sometimes she's allergic and sometimes not. And I looked into it. It was really interesting. And it turns I have a friend of mine who's actually allergic to egg whites. And so I was able to, I'm like, hey, I read this thing maybe talk to your doctor about it. And she came back to me later. She's like, yeah, that's why I can eat like eggs in a cake, but I can't eat like a souffle that's primarily egg white, because then it upsets my stomach. And it was such a great learning experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah. And I think there's like ways to like, yeah, like those comments are like really good. And then it's like the people who are going to tell me like I'm monotone. It's like, totally, I hear you. I'm monotone and I have vocal fry, and like that's just going to be here.
But I that's a funny thing, because you'd mentioned that to me too. You're like, you generally tend to be pretty monotone. I remember I was watching your videos and I'm like, I really like the delivery, because it's like so clear cut, and I'm not like sitting there trying to interpret the message you're trying to get across to me. It's like, I appreciate that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's totally like, it's really just my voice. Like my voice is just, like, it's just like this. Or we're like, although I definitely at first, in my older videos, I have a lot of upspeaking, which people did comment on, and I like did practice. Like I was like, okay, I was like, time to get it through, Sarah. I gotta practice my upspeaking, which was really interesting to like, yeah.
Wait, what is upspeaking? I have no idea. What does this mean? Wait.
No, totally. I do it a lot, but I try really hard when I don't do it on camera, because it's a habit. Upspeaking is when at the end of a sentence, you kind of just like, your intonation goes up, like how I just did it.
Thank you for the demonstration. That was totally on purpose. I appreciate that. Okay. Okay. See, now I feel like, am I doing it? I don't know if I'm doing it. I'll like watch back a video of me when I'm saying something and I'm like, oh, I say a lot. I say and okay. Like if anyone has ever seen the raw and edited like footage of me, I say okay before every sentence. I don't know why, and I don't know how to make myself stop. So how did you stop it? How did you like keep yourself from doing that?
I don't.
I own it.
Yeah, no, I don't. I, for some reason, like I'll get a word in my head and I'll say the word a bunch of times throughout the video, and I'll edit it to the best of my ability. But then to like a half of it to 3/4 of it, it's just going to be in there. And yeah, it's like maybe today my word will be nevertheless, and everyone's just going to have to hear me say nevertheless 15 times. Or maybe it'll be like hopefully, or it'll be something like that. And then it'll just be like a fun little Easter egg to see what word I chose today to repeat incessantly.
Oh my God. Honest to goodness, I feel that so strongly, because I had like 3 videos just a few days ago where I think I just said nebulous over and over and over again in the video. It was like, I think I heard it on like a podcast or like something else I was watching, or another video, another content creator said the word, and I was like, I like that word. That word is very descriptive. It makes me understand what they're trying to communicate. And then I was like, I'm going to be smart. I'll just say it until like it loses all meaning, essentially.
I mean, sorry, I was just going to say, I'm excited to see what context nebulous comes up in, though. That's a really good word.
Right? Isn't it a great word? That's why I was like, and then also Karen Gillan, who is she plays Nebula in the Avengers movies, and also she was Amy Pond in Doctor Who. She is maybe like my favorite person, so I made that association in my head, and I'm like, I like this. It gives me like pleasant associations, and so I don't know. If I have a video on intuitive eating, I can't talk. I apologize. I have a video on intuitive eating. If you watch that, you will see. I said it like 8 times, I think.
I'll have to do a
count. It's so problematic. I watched a bunch of videos on how to actually be better at what I'm doing. And I sometimes feel like I'll watch like your channel, or I'll watch like Charlie, and you guys are so good with your delivery. I'm like, man, I don't know how to do that. How do people do that? Like they're just better at it than me. And then I'm like silently just being like, I don't know how to be personable.
I think if you want to say nebulous in a video 8 times, you should say nebulous in a video 8 times, and that's perfectly fine. I think it's just like kind of like doing your thing to whatever capacity it is. And my thing is sitting on my bedroom floor with my cats fighting in the background and saying nevertheless 10 times in a video. And I feel like that's great. So I mean, it definitely has taken me a bit to get more comfortable on camera.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I'm a shy person, and you wouldn't think that like a camera itself would kind of come across as a person, but it does have like this essence or presence of something that does kind of evoke nervousness in me personally. So it took me a really long time to kind of get across that. And I always do struggle with the thoughts of like, who can hear me in my room being like, hey, everybody, welcome back, or anything like that. But after a bit, I've kind of come to the point in my life where I'm like, I don't care. Like, if my neighbor can hear me say, hey, everybody, welcome back, great. Welcome back, my neighbor.
I think to a certain degree, I had this kind of the same worry that you're talking about, where I'm just like, do I want to tell my friends and family that I am doing this? Because while the judgment of strangers at large on the internet means very little to me, if my like little sister came back and she's like, dude, your entire channel is absolute garbage fire, I would like be devastated. So like for a little bit, I didn't tell anybody. And then my cousin accidentally found my like Instagram page. And he was like, hey, you know that your sister is doing like YouTube, right? He told my siblings. And I was so mad at him. Like, you can't be cool. You couldn't just be cool. And he's like, I thought they knew. How was I? You tell them everything. How was I supposed to know you never told them anything? He blew my cover. I was like, and for a little bit, I was like really self-conscious about it. I'm like, maybe I should just not be me on camera. And then I kind of forgot.
Yeah, I mean, my friends and family, like, they totally know. Like, everybody, like, I don't really keep it a secret. My only rule is I, like, don't like to hear myself talk, which is crazy because I edit all of my videos and I'm stuck with my voice in my own body every single day. But I'm just like, just don't watch it, like, when I'm in the same room. I'm like, just, that's fine. Like, you can watch it, just don't watch it when I'm in the same room. My family knows, but everyone is, like, very, like, nobody does any technology in my family. Like, my family is like farmers. Like, my dad doesn't have an email. I would be like, he's like, I have no idea. My mom had me like play one of my videos for her once. And she was like, that's great, sweetie. And I was like, thanks, mom.
I played a video. My mom actually so my siblings, who obviously cannot keep a secret, told my mom, and my mom like watched a video. She's like, I don't understand what's happening. Who are you talking to? I don't think she understands like YouTube as a concept, which is because she only ever uses YouTube to like listen to music anyway. So it's like, she's like, but I don't understand. Who are the people who you're talking to? Are you talking about TV? Is this TV? I'm like, yes, mama, it's TV.
No, my mom's the same. She's like, that's good, sweetie. We're trying to go into Marshalls now, so put it away. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I didn't try to explain to her in greater detail because I just feel like it was going so poorly. I was just like, okay, she's like vaguely proud of me and that, you know, I'm doing a thing. But beyond that, it's just like,
yeah.
She has no clue. She has no clue. I think the person I confuse the most in my personal life is just like my partner. He's just like, why? Why do you care? I'm like, because I do. I just do.
Yeah. I mean, my boyfriend's so supportive. He's just like rock and roll. Like, if he could put on a cheerleader outfit and cheer behind my camera every video, he would do it. But I say he's not allowed in the room.
Well, I think partner's great. And then like my the stream went mute, and like literally he like knocked on the door. He's like, hey, no one can hear you.
Oh no.
He's there being like technical support in like a very sweet way. He's just also confused. He's like, I don't understand why you enjoy this. He's like, I don't, but he's also, you know, he's a serious person and I am not. So I think that's where it comes from. Very much so like politics. I think everything he listens to is like politics or finance. So that's where I got all of my Roth IRA tips, if anyone's curious. Oh yeah. All right. One more question. Sure. Do you have opinions on like the adjacent girls? Like, I mean, Amber and Chantal, I think definitely take like queen of the Amberverse right now. I think Chantal might be dominating more of the conversation currently. But what do you think of like Amy's life journey and Life by Jen? Have you found any of their stuff compelling? Did you get pulled into those circles at all? Like, for me personally, honestly, I cannot watch them. It's like watching Chantal's lives. Like, it's mind numbing. I never got pulled into it, to be frank, but I really want to know what you guys think.
I have definitely watched Life by Jen in the past. Jennifer, Gwen, Anne. I definitely have. I've like made a few videos in the past. I think it's kind of like, I went through a very similar where I'm like, oh wow, fellow cat mom, yay. And I think just over a bit, like things kind of made me question as well, where at that point I was already making videos. So that's when I was like, oh, like maybe I should talk about that. So I made a few videos on that. And I think adjacently, that's pretty much who else that I've kind of watched, because I watch Amber, Chantel, etc., and then I have other people that I watch as well. Like I am super big into watching Julia Zelg, which is where the Dolls the Kill thing kind of came from.
Okay.
So I have a few other things that I watch, but from that's pretty much kind of where I stay. Sorry, I was just reading by Wild Rose.
That's okay.
You find life identity incredibly dark. Yeah, that's kind of where I was a little bit as well. And then I kind of fell off where I feel like sometimes things get a bit too real, which is a bit ironic to say because of course it's real. But I think that's something that's continuously I've had to like has like I've reminded myself and be like, yeah, like this is a real thing, which I feel like I've also had to remind myself through as well. Amber's like recent diagnosis.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like that was like another step, but of course it has been the whole time, which is more of like a learning lesson for myself. But yeah, it's kind of been through waves as well. I find myself in waves with a lot of people's content.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think there was a little bit of time where I sort of stopped watching Amber's channel in particular, like altogether. I don't know. I find her overarching story very compelling, right? Like the big moves in her life, I find compelling, but like her day to day is very, very mundane to me. And I know that there's like people are really good at like noticing details. I am not. I am like, if you're gonna throw subtle hints at me, I will never pick up on them. I'm very, very like dense sometimes. So I can't watch her content and get more out of it occasionally. And then I think that's kind of why I didn't really fall into the orbit of I think like Life by Jen and Amy's life journey. I think I've watched. I'm sure everybody has. I think that video has like 1 million views. But I think the video that I've watched by her is the one where she's eating I think almost 6,000 calories in a day, and that was really distressing to see because I knew like we know, right, like calories do matter. How many calories you're eating do matter. She has to be eating a lot of calories to have gotten to the weight that she's gotten. But I guess I hadn't realized how a person could eat that much until I saw her do it, and I was like, oh, I see. And it was really kind of like upsetting and sad for me to see, I guess. Like I don't know. It's really easy, I think, with in the wake of something bad happening, like with Chantel's diagnoses recently and with Amber's, to kind of be like, oh yeah, you know, this is sad. But I think with Amy especially, we don't see like a lot of her like diagnostic stuff, and we just see her sort of behavioral patterns. So I think it's easy to forget that until you see something really disturbing like the eating.
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally keep up with like Amy's life journey. Like I've seen some things in the sphere that I know. And I don't think that the catalyst of myself being like, I have to really kind of hold myself to be like, this is like a real thing kind of thing. I don't think the catalyst has to be like a diagnosis for me personally. I think there's like an array of things that it can be, but that's like something like I've had to kind of in a critique of myself be like, this is something that's like affecting somebody's real life, which I think, yeah, like it just like sometimes you'll reflect and it'll be like, wow, like that's really serious in the sense of like, again, like when Amber had her diagnosis and then Chantel was talking about this, when she like was talking about it, I was like, wow, I was like, this is pretty dark.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I've just had to kind of like in a critique for things, but of myself be like, yeah, like it's pretty dark.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I genuinely like I try and approach their situations with as much empathy as I can. Sometimes though, especially with Chantel, she'll say extremely ignorant things. And to a certain degree, I can understand being ignorant. Everyone is ignorant about something. I've been ignorant about things in the past. I just mentioned a little while ago. And so I can understand that. But like this need that she has to double down on ignorant beliefs makes it very hard for me to like sympathize with her. And I think like, especially with her not feeling well, it like kind of jolted me back to being like, okay, yeah, she sucks sometimes as a person, but that doesn't mean that I need to also suck. in that regard. So I try to keep that in mind. I mean, I'm not flexing on here. I'm definitely like, I think if there is one thing that I can kind of give the anti-hater community credit for, is just sort of occasionally reminding people that, yeah, you know, they might suck, but they're absolutely still human people. And we should just keep that in mind when we're watching them, right? Just try and keep in mind that if I say this at the end of my video, is that I would never give them criticism in a manner that I myself could not take, right? Like I don't feel comfortable just going onto somebody's channel and just being like, I think that, you know, this, and this, and, you know, you should go kill yourself and whatnot. Because I know if I got that, it would really upset me. So I never want to give that criticism to them either. But I also think that and I myself have done this in the past. So I'm not just saying them, but this belief that I think a lot of them have, that being fat means all criticism is because you're fat, and therefore there's no internal personality traits that you have that are making people react this way to you. It's a defense mechanism, and it really upsets me when they do that, because then it makes me feel like, oh, good, because now they're using their fat as a defensive shield. So now if I ever complain that, hey, I lost out on an internship when I was in college because I was not like pretty. Like I did not know how to do my makeup. I had my hair put back in a ponytail. I was by far the most qualified candidate there, but I was not as aesthetically pleasing to look at. And this was a public facing job. And I remember thinking that, and I felt so awful about it. But I often feel like, well, when you've got people who are making everything, all criticism directed at you about your weight, it genuinely reduces what fat phobia should actually be, what fat phobia should mean. And so when someone's got a legitimate complaint, it means nothing, because people are going to be like, it's another complaint that they're throwing in there with all the other complaints about how, you know, everything is apparently fat phobic, and you saying ignorant shit is apparently, like, you being called out for saying ignorant shit is also apparently fat phobic. Like, I don't know. I think I just rambled. I don't think I was clear.
No, don't worry. And and I think to like the point that you said earlier, where it's kind of like there's like these two emotions and neither of them are exclusive. I think like with that, emotions are complex, and it's like really valid for people who are watching content to really have those turmoil of emotions, because I think that's natural and that's really like valid to feel, and that's how I feel a lot of times. And and I did, again, like when you were saying with Chantel, that I was feeling that way. But with that, I do also feel that people should listen to BIPOC when they say something is wrong. Like, I feel like people should pay attention to that and listen to that. And I feel really awful for the people in the community who have constantly been saying things and pointing to things, and people haven't really been taking them with validity or with concern or with weight. And it's really a shame, because if like multiple like people in the community are saying it, or not even in the community in general, you know, like, I don't know. I just feel like that whole aspect of when Chantel was doubling down in that regard was just sad.
Yeah. I really do. I felt the same way, because there's a lot of stuff, like I'm a woman of color, but I'm not a BIPOC woman, right? So there's a lot of things that I just don't have any experience with. So if I have a BIPOC person come to me and be like, hey, this is maybe not right, then I'm like, all right, cool. I don't have experience. Like, I'm not gonna go to like a structural engineer and be like, hey, this is how you should design a building. I know nothing about this. I'll just shut up and listen. Thank you. You know, like that's how I kind of felt. And I think that's sort of the same way I feel about when it comes to like Amber and like the dead naming situation. Because I know she said this a million times, where it's like, well, that was like many, many years ago. I think it was like 5 years in the past. She's like, I've, you know, grown and changed as a person. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. But then why have you never like publicly apologized, right? You don't have to think that anybody else will believe your apology. But if you're sorry, then just say you're sorry. At least what it will do is the person who you dead named might see it, and they might be like, okay, thank you for that. And also it takes away any ammo that I might have. I can't criticize you for saying, oh, you still did this awful thing that you've never apologized for, if you apologize. You know, like, I apologize.
I totally agree. I do think that there is like, we've seen instances, especially within both people, where there has been like quite the emotional maneuvering to kind of get around saying sorry or something like that, or acknowledging anything like that. Like, I do think that's behavior that we've seen in the past. And like, even as like a more contemporary example, like when that whole video that just happened with Becky, and the title was like, "My girlfriend is like trying to hurt me," which was very much like a type of title. Like, I feel like that definitely was something that could have been like, "Hey guys, sorry, didn't think that through," or even the acknowledgement if you're putting out a title like that, that like you're gonna receive some like comments about that. Like, I feel like even a contemporary instance like that even like plays into the overall scheme of like not really acknowledging anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I think that's a lot of the influence of like Nikocado coming through in there. I mean, Amber has said multiple times that she's a fan of Nikocado. And this is like one of those things where like, be careful of who your idols are, because that is not a person you want to associate with if you don't have the kind of thick skin that Nikocado has, right? Like both Nikocado and Trisha, they are like master level trolls. Yeah. But they've also got some of the thickest skin in the game, because you have to. If you're going to troll, you have to be understanding of what that kind of behavior is going to get you. So if you can't take the heat that's going to bring on you, maybe don't say things like that. And I think that's the kind of place that Amber is caught in, where she feels like she should be able to do these things because other people do these things, while discounting the fact that they get a ton of criticism and pushback too. So she should expect it for herself.
Yeah, and I think I even mentioned in like a video that I made about that, like where that specific title was talked about, was it's like really these like kind of conflicting messages where like I know that she's mentioned in the past that she wants a different relationship with her audience, which I feel like is really fair. And I guess if I was in her situation, like I feel like I would as well. But I think there's kind of like these conflicting messages put out when you put out a title and then you kind of are like, I want a different relationship. Where if you're going to put out the title, I feel like you should know what might you get back, because I feel like in the same way you said Nikocado, Avocado, and Trisha Paytas, I feel like they both kind of know what they're going to get, and that's kind of what like the gig that they're doing at the moment, and that's to each their own with whatever way that is. Like if they're happy with that personally, then they're happy with that personally. And yeah, I feel like she should have had a little bit more foresight about what she was going to receive, especially if those are the people that she watches.
I really agree with that. It's one of those things where I always find it odd where I will look at the situation and I'm like, I understand that you're not happy about the way that your audience is communicating with you. You're not happy about what they're saying, what they're doing. So I can be upset about people being mean to me. I think that's a fair emotion. But then you also have to recognize that, hey, I can't control the universe. I can't control what people are going to say. I only have control over my own actions, right? So like, if I can't change what they're doing and they're saying, how about I change something about myself so I don't have that kind of a reaction? You could do it by being a better person, which I think is probably the best way to go about it. But equally as acceptable is just to not be on the internet if it bothers you that much, right? I don't know. I find it just kind of odd that I think Amber and Chantal both, they find it so upsetting that people are like, well, why can't I say this? I'm like, I think you're confusing can't with saying it and then getting pushback for it, you know? Like, I think there's a big difference between people being like, you can never say this versus you can say it, we'll hold you accountable to it.
Yeah, and I think it's like hard, and that there's like a multitude of different options. Like I think specifically, I guess also in Chantel's case as well, I feel like it's difficult to just like stop making videos because their livelihood is like so ingrained and tied into it. But I do think that there are like a combination of options that would perhaps change an outcome or like begin in catalyzing a change to an outcome. And I think that, like to continue kind of this dissidence in putting out content and expecting a different reaction. Yeah, it's just like a little bit confusing. And if anything kind of shows the hint of possible, like not maybe wanting to really actually do the catalyst for a change.
Yeah, I think also one of the funniest, but also in a dark way. I think Chantal had this, it was like a Taco Bell mukbang where she's like, I'm just going to do what I can. I'm going to continue eating this way, but I will also lose weight. And I'm like, but that's what you've been doing. You've just been eating whatever you want and you haven't lost weight. So you're not changing anything. You're just saying you want a different outcome. And that's kind of how I feel she reacts to a lot of things too, is that she's like, I don't actually want to change anything. I don't actually want to get better at anything. I just don't want any of the negative aspects of what my behavior gets me. And while it sucks, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's reality. Like, that's life, right? Like,
yeah. And I think in in any aspect of any regard for anything, pulling a quote from Peter Mon, where he always says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I think that can apply to essentially anything. And I think that's like perhaps the one in that book.
Yeah. I think I'm not trying to be a smarty pants here. I think that quote is from Einstein. I think he said that. He's like, yeah, I think he said that.
Peter Mon has showed that one to me. Sorry, Einstein.
Hey, you got to give credit where credit is due, right? Like, no, I really agree with you there. I don't know. I feel bad a lot of times for Chantal and Amber, because I'm like, I understand being at a higher weight, it can be a lot harder to lose the weight and like keep the weight off, right? It is definitely a much more difficult thing than it would be for someone who's already at a healthy weight and just wants to lose like 10 pounds, right? But just because it's more difficult doesn't mean that now you have a get out of jail free card where you're like, well, it's too hard, so I'm not going to do anything, and I'll put. And that's kind of the vibe I get from a lot of what they say, is that because it's harder for them to lose the weight, it's harder for them to maintain the weight loss. It's easier just to say, I can't do it. It's too hard. And honestly, that's the vibe I get from Abby Sharp. If any of you here are familiar with my content, you know I have so many problems with Abby Sharp, Abby's Kitchen, dietitian. I don't know if you are familiar with her at all.
One where Amber just did a reaction to the video, and I watched your video on it. That's like, I remember watching your video, and then it was like a week after Amber like posted her video reacting to it. Yep. And I did watch all of it to Alex's shock. He saw it on Twitter. He's like, who watched Amber's movie? And I was like, me.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, that was the one. I followed her for a little while, and I think that's the problem that I have with a lot of the intuitive eating stuff is just this. I'm like, you cannot eat intuitively without like serious DBT, because eating intuitively is what got us to this point. You know, like, I don't know.
Do you know what's deep? I'm so sorry. I'm I don't really talk about those aspects because I am generally uneducated on specific things like that. Okay. I don't even know what DBT is.
It's like cognitive therapy, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that's kind of, so I said this before multiple times. I am team therapy. I have a therapist myself. I love my therapist. She is wonderful. I know very little about her personal life, but she is a fantastic human person, and she helps me. And I'm of the belief that every person can gain something out of seeing a therapist. Mm-hmm. But like, a lot of times you will see like Abby and also like Chantal and Amber have both said this, right? They're like, well, I'm just going to eat intuitively. I'm just going to eat. I'm like, right, but you're eating in response to stimuli that is not physical, right? You're eating to satisfy an emotional need. When you don't address the emotional problems, you're never ever going to be able to just listen to your body and eat how much you should eat if you were just hungry. And I think that was the biggest problem that I had with like Abby's video, was she was just like, well, she's trying to diet. And I'm like, you're giving her an out here. You're giving her excuses for behavior that have literally led her to this path. And I understand you want her to be better and eat better. That's what we want too. Mm-hmm. But if you never hold her accountable, she's never going to think there's any reason for her to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the video in itself. Oh, thank you, Shane. I think the video in itself, it was even like when I was watching you talk about it, and then when I was watching like Amber's video about it, I feel like even Amber pointed it out, where she was like, we're using very like obsolete videos for certain things. And I was like, oh, it's like interesting choice that like these specific videos were the ones that were chosen. Mm-hmm. And then the video where Amber was like, I'm rebranding myself, which I don't think like really necessarily still applies in the same way. So I just thought I thought the videos chosen were like very interesting. I was like, okay, like interesting choice.
Yeah. I don't know. Her video I thought was very problematic. I think and I don't blame her entirely. Like Abby, I don't blame her 100% because I'm like, I can understand, like we were, right? When we first started watching, it's like, oh, you don't know all of the lore. You don't know the volumes that this comes with that you really need to see and read and understand before you get to the point where you're like, ah, I see why this is an issue.
Yeah,
And sorry,
sorry,
go
no,
ahead.
you should go. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. And so I think that was my issue. I'm like, she has what? I think the last I checked on Amber's channel was like 8,000 videos. There is no way I mean, I don't even know everything, but the cursory look that you've done, I in no way think is like enough to give your professional opinion on somebody like this, especially when they don't listen to the professionals that have given her opinion that obviously differs from yours, you know?
Yeah, and I think that there is like a lot obviously that like ties into things, like nothing is really ever isolated, and like it's Amber has like talked about, and like I feel like, you know, is so like is true, is she talked about how she had like a very like complicated and rough childhood, and how there's like a lot of things that have really like tied into that, and like how she uses certain things for coping mechanisms. And I thought it was an interesting choice that none of that was really talked about in Abby's video. Like I felt like that was like really skimmed over, which I feel like is not really a good representation for just disordered eating in general. Like I feel like it was really like an isolated take on everything that happened in the past, like 6 months, maybe. I don't know. My time reference is like so skewed because of everything that's happened. But yeah, like I felt like it was a really interesting statement to kind of not go into that, where I feel like that could be really beneficial to understanding like the larger scope of like disordered eating.
Yeah. No. I agree with that. I think there was also, God, I'm forgetting. My memory is really bad, but I think I just saw this recently where they were talking about like recovery from just eating disorders and whatnot, especially with binge eating disorders. I'm almost certain, though, if I'm wrong, please somebody let me know. It's like 80% of people who get like therapeutic therapy actually tend to recover from like binge eating disorder. And I realize that's like got a little bit of a selection criteria there, right? People who can afford therapy are probably also people who have the resources, and all of that's true, but that's still a great statistic to hear. And that's what makes me so mad. Like, I am now at the point where I can afford therapy and it's not that difficult for me. But like when I was younger, when I was like first getting into like my kind of problematic behavior with food, when I was first getting into, you know, like my real like body dysmorphia issues, I didn't have that luxury. I didn't have the finances available to me to go see a therapist. And honestly, given Amber's financial situation, she could go see a therapist like multiple times a week. Most people are lucky if they can go like once or twice a month, right? So I think that's what really bothers me, is that you have all of this at your feet. You have all of this at your disposal. And same thing with Chantel. Chantel has the Canadian medical system, and I'm Canadian. Fun fact, if anyone here is somehow unaware of that, I say it all the time. I'm very proud of that somehow. Is that I'm Canadian, and their medical system is great. You know, like when my mom had my sister, she got like what's it called? The mask of pregnancy, miasma? Hyperpigmentation on her face. And one of the things that they gave her was they're like, hey, if you want to get like microdermabrasion, God, I can't word anymore. Microdermabrasion, if you want to get that, because it was like messing with her head a little bit to see all of like the marks on her face, she could get microdermabrasion and it was covered because it was impacting her mental health. So I know that there is stuff available to her. But if you're not willing to like try and put in the effort on your part, no amount of help is ever going to be enough. And that's kind of like what it comes down for me at the end. It's like, you don't want to help yourself. You want everyone else to stand there and kind of like be at your beck and call, you know? I don't know. Makes me feel slightly less charitable, because it generally, like, I try not to look at it that way, but it makes me like so upset when I'll see all of the resources they have at their disposal that they're not availing themselves to, and like just choosing to suffer and then presenting it like martyrdom. There's so many people out there who would kill to be in that position, and just seeing them squander it like upsets me.
No, I think that's really fair. And resources are, like not everybody has access to specific resources like that. And like resources in general are a privilege.
Yeah. There's a comment, if you don't mind, I'll just read it.
No, totally. Go ahead.
Ali, I hope I'm not butchering your name. I'm really bad with names. A therapist can't hold her accountable either. Neither of the girls. A therapist can help someone who really wants to be helped. It's unfortunate but true. Both need to live in medical facility. Yes and no, because I know that Chantel in particular has floated this idea of like being put into like a facility and like just having them force her to kind of lose weight. That's not like long-term sustainable, right? Like it's not, you can temporarily do that, like a 5 month, a 6 month stay. But just like if someone has like a problem with substance abuse, you can't keep them in rehab forever. At some point, they have to return to normal life. Otherwise, that's prison, I'm pretty sure. So it's not a long-term solution. And I get what you mean, that a therapist can't hold you accountable. But having serious therapy where you're talking to a person about your emotional health, especially if that person is an unbiased individual where they don't have like her audience, us included, honestly, we gain something out of watching her, right? Whether it's just enjoyment or content or whatever. A therapist and you don't have that relationship. Her and a therapist wouldn't have that relationship. This is a person who has no reason to really lie to you. So talking to a therapist about your problems and getting their perspective on things, they can tell you straight up, like, no, your problem, what you're saying is not right. Or maybe don't think about it like this. And you can give it that like consideration. You know, does that make sense? I hope I'm commuting myself well enough. Probably not, though. I tend to ramble a lot. Yeah, sorry, I got distracted for a second. Yeah, I get what you mean. I hope I didn't I hope I didn't come off across sounding like super angry. It's not something that like upsets me most of the time. It's just every once in a while, like I'll see like Chantel right now where she's feeling so unwell and I feel so bad for her. And like my brain says anytime someone's like suffering, I'm like, these are the solutions. I have solutions. Do these things. And then if this doesn't work, we'll come up with another action plan. I'm a very like action-oriented person. So when I see them just choosing to suffer sometimes, choosing sadness for no reason, it doesn't compute in my brain. I'm like, why would you want to live like this?
Mm-hmm. No, I'm just a little sad you didn't incorporate nebulous into your response.
Well, all of my answers tend to be pretty nebulous and the definition changes, you see. I'm very, very long-winded. Like once more, if anyone ever gets a hold of like my raw unedited footage, you'd be amazed. Like a video that took 20 minutes for you guys to watch took me like an hour and a half to film. So I just talk. I talk all the time. You can see right now how much I'm talking.
You're fine. Mine's just blanket air. Like I sit there and I just like go and I have to do that 5 times.
I have the opposite problem where I'm just like, I find it sometimes it's so hard for me to like how to edit because I'm like, I didn't even breathe in between 2 sentences. Like I'm watching myself and I'm like, I'm mad at me right now. Jesus Christ, lady, take a breath. But yeah, so what do you think is like, if you could offer one criticism for like the community, this is not for our girls, but like to us, the other reactors, what would be like the one criticism that you have to say? What was like one thing, one area in which you'd like to see us all improve?
I think I'll probably tie that back into what I said before, like regarding, I found myself kind of being like, Sarah, like you have to really like look at that, is the sense of like whenever we kind of, or personally, I get the reality check where I'm like, this is real, this is happening, this is the thing happening. And that was something I just, I found myself in the groove of like making videos and I was like, I'm doing this and this. And then I'm just like, Sarah, like, this is a real thing. Like, you gotta take it out, look at it, and then kind of reassess everything that's happening. And the catalyst was when Amber was diagnosed. And I was like, man, like, this is some real shit. And it always has been real shit. And that's like not taking away from anything. And I think that just like really like gave me a good reality check and made me think about what I wanted to do. And and then I started doing a few different other things because I'm like, yeah, like this is something I do like watching, and I'm still going to make videos because I just watch it. It's content I consume. But then I'm like, yeah, it's real. Like I can do other things too. And I can incorporate all the things in all of my interests. So that's kind of like something that I found myself reflecting inwardly and being like, yeah, Sarah, like real shit is real shit, and like you just have to recognize it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very fair. I think that's a very fair take on it. And I honestly, I appreciate every once in a while when someone be like, "Hey, maybe don't think about it like this," or even honestly, I appreciate like partner being that way too. He's like, "Yeah, I mean that sucks, and what they're doing sucks, but like." It's also like their lives. You kind of have to look at it from a very internal point of view where like if you were in their shoes in that situation, you know, would it be that easy for just to listen to somebody on the internet saying, "Hey, go get therapy"? And that's why I for the most part I try and not be really mad. Occasionally, I mean, I think occasionally Amber or Chantel will do something and I'll just be mad. But for the most of the time, I try and be like as calm as I can, giving information and linking as many studies as I humanly can, because I'm like, if I had to read them, so should everyone else.
Yeah, I would say that, and also think about your channel name if you ever start a channel name. Mine's my two cats' names, which is lovely, but I didn't think about it until somebody said that I named my channel after a Greek goddess's butt, which they're
honestly, I'll be honest, that's what I first thought too. I'm like,
that's fair.
Okay, I'm like, weird flex, but all right, I get it. And then you were like, they're my cats, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, everyone's like, there's like, that's a great OnlyFans name, and I'm like, love it, support it, but I was not thinking about it.
Like, just think it through. I think with channel names, I always wanted something that was like unique, kind of, I guess. It was like, I don't want. And then like I picked my channel name thinking it was so, and then I Googled it. There's like it's like a Jasmine the series. And anytime like that comes up, I'm like, oh man, I did bad.
Although I do have a question.
Yes.
I don't know if you've answered it on your channel, but I was curious how you got your intro.
Oh, a series of escalating personal jokes that I thought I would make everybody on the internet suffer through. So I remember I was having a conversation with partner, and I was like complaining about something that was totally a first world problem. And he goes, "You are not as relatable as you think you are. This is not a problem that most of the world experiences." And I was like, I'm not relatable, am I? Like, I'm just obnoxious. And so I thought I would go with that. This is me acknowledging to the internet at large that I realize, I know you guys see it, but I also know that I'm obnoxious. Thank you.
I like it. I like remembered hearing it. I was like, I want to know the behind the scenes. Like, what does that mean?
No, I think a lot of what I say sort of on my channel is at least to a certain degree, it's just like weird internal jokes that I have with my family that like, I think somebody who like people in my like IRL life will like see, and they're the only, like, there's like two people in my entire audience who will get it. I don't know why I like doing that or why I am that way. I just am. I don't know. I figured, if you have to suffer through watching it with me, my friends and family watch me be long-winded on camera, the least you can do is appreciate a random joke I throw in every once in a while.
A fun little Easter egg.
Exactly. That's honestly the best thing that I think Joss Whedon has brought to like comic books and like comic book movies is like just the overabundance of little Easter eggs there for like nerds to enjoy. The worst thing is definitely the fact that now any two people talking absolutely have to talk in like witty retorts. I hate that so much, but you can't get everything. Yeah, I have feelings on that. Well, all right. Thank you so much. I think we'll wrap. We went about half an hour over. I know. An hour.
Sorry.
I know. Given I've done the bulk of the talking, I'm trying to be better about that, but I am, like I said, very, very long-winded.
Oh no, you're not long-winded at all.
No, I am. It's okay. I talk a lot. My mother used to say, she's like, you talk the way people fire bullets from a gun. Like just that kind of speed and just like continuously bam, 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 bam. Like, okay, mom. She is my harshest critic. All of the thumbs down I get are from my mom. Just being like, no, bad, talk slower.
Yeah, it's like, you're going to say something about my teeth. You should hear what my mom says about me.
Exactly. Nothing you've said could ever be meaner than what my mom, I mean, You know, with all of the love
love
in the
my
world.
mom.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, I'm gonna come off sounding like I hate my mom, but I
don't find this specific video out of all of them. I promise you're the best.
Yes, I feel this. Like there was a video where I was wearing like a crap ton of glitter on my face, and my mom like later told me, she's like, "Why do you wear so much glitter on your eyes? You look like a disco ball." And she did not mean that as a compliment. I was like, Mom, like that's probably fair, but also why? But I really appreciate you being on here. This was great. You are as lovely as I had anticipated from your monotone videos. Your words, not mine. I think you're delivering.
No. I fully embrace all the monotoneness. It's wonderful. I love it.
I like it. Like I said before, I appreciate that because I feel like I talk with enough emphasis in my volume for for everyone. So I appreciate someone having a calmness to them is what I'm trying to say.
The monotone household over here fully appreciates it.
Thank you so much for joining me. This was great. Thank you everybody in the chat for joining me. I hope everyone's having a great holiday season. Remember, if you're going to buy stuff, buy it now. Everything's on sale. Don't spend money and buy things at full price ever.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you. And, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye. Thank you once more, Sarah. I really appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, of course. It was great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, anytime. Honest to goodness. You're welcome back anytime.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.